Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. We appreciate you joining us today because we have an intriguing and deeply personal story to share. So let's dive right in. To be honest, I never thought I'd be the one telling this kind of story. For the longest time, I refused to believe what was right in front of me. But life has a way of unraveling the truth, whether you're ready or not. My name is Donald, and if you've ever been in a relationship where things suddenly fell off, where the person you once trusted started slipping away, you'll want to stick around. You see, when most men hear their wives say, "I need space," they panic. It's a phrase that feels loaded, a quiet warning that something is about to change. But let me tell you something. The worst thing you can do in that moment is beg, plead, or argue. Instead, you have to play it smart. 15 years. That's how long Genevieve and I had been married. A decade and a half of love, commitment, and the kind of bond that weathers storms. Or so I believed. Our marriage wasn't perfect, but whose is? We had our fights, our disagreements, and our struggles. But through it all, I thought we had a solid foundation. We were a team. Or at least, I thought we were. Then, something shifted. It was subtle at first. Conversations grew shorter. Her attention seemed elsewhere. I started noticing small things that didn't seem significant on their own, but added up over time. She stayed up later than usual, her face illuminated by the soft glow of her phone screen in the dark. When I asked her what she was doing, she'd shrug it off. Just scrolling, she'd say, or texting a friend. It seemed harmless, but my instincts whispered otherwise. Everyone deserves their privacy, right? That's what I told myself at first. But then I started noticing the patterns. She'd laugh at messages but wouldn't share them. She'd tilt her phone away from me, setting it face down on the table as if to shield it from my eyes. Sometimes she'd receive a text and instead of replying right away, she'd get up and leave the room. That's when the uneasiness settled in my gut. If you've been with someone long enough, you know their rhythms, their habits. And when those habits change, when something feels different, you feel it before you can explain it. I told myself I was overthinking it. Maybe I was being paranoid. Maybe I was reading too much into nothing. But deep down I knew. I just knew. Then came the night that changed everything. We had just finished dinner when she put down her fork, took a deep breath, and looked me in the eyes with an expression I couldn't quite place. "Donald, I need space." The words hit me like a silent explosion. My mind registered them immediately, but my body refused to react. No anger, no immediate sadness, just a quiet sinking feeling in my chest. But I didn't let it show. Instead, I leaned back in my chair and nodded slowly. "Space, huh?" My tone was neutral, almost amused. Not angry, not desperate, just calm. Because here's what I've learned. The person who stays calm holds the power. She hesitated. I could see it in her face. She hadn't expected me to take it so lightly. And that's when I knew. This wasn't about finding herself. This wasn't about needing time to reflect. Something else was going on. And my gut screamed at me to pay attention. So I asked her casually, "What do you mean by space? Do you need time alone in the house? Are you feeling overwhelmed?" Her answers were vague, non-committal. "I just need to figure things out." Figure what out? She wouldn't say. She fidgeted with her fingers, avoided my gaze. And in that moment, I made a decision. I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't going to ask 100 questions she had already decided not to answer. Instead, I was going to find out the truth for myself. People say you should trust your partner. I say trust your instincts. And mine were screaming at me. Over the next few days, I started digging. Sometimes the truth isn't hidden. It's just waiting for someone to notice it. First, I checked her phone records. Not obsessively, just a simple check to see if there was a number that kept showing up. And sure enough, there it was, over and over. Next, I went through her social media. Not her posts, but the subtle things. Who was liking them, who was commenting, and more importantly, who she had suddenly reconnected with. And that's when I saw it. A name I hadn't heard in years. Her high school boyfriend. The guy she had dated before me. The one she used to talk about like he was the love that got away. And now, here he was, back in her life. At first, I didn't panic. I told myself it could be innocent, old friends reconnecting, nothing more. But then I saw the messages, the long conversations, the playful emojis, the just thinking about old times texts, the kind of messages that had no place in a married woman's inbox. I could have confronted her right then. I could have woken her up and demanded an explanation, but I didn't. Because here's the truth. When someone asks for space, they've already taken it. They made their decision long before they spoke the words. They just want you to play along so they can feel less guilty. But here's the part she didn't expect. When a woman asks for space, she expects you to chase her, to call, to text, to show up with flowers and plead for a second chance. So I did the opposite. I gave her the space she wanted. When she didn't talk to me, I didn't talk to her. When she spoke, I kept my responses short, polite, but distant. No cold shoulder. No passive-aggressive comments. Just controlled indifference. And since I wasn't wasting my energy begging for her attention, I turned that energy inward. I hit the gym harder than I had in years. Not to impress her, but because it felt damn good to do something for myself. I upgraded my wardrobe, threw out the worn-out clothes, got a fresh haircut. She never even noticed. And the best part? I rekindled my social life. Because if someone wants space, you give it to them. And you make damn sure they feel it. For the longest time, I had dedicated every waking moment to my marriage, prioritizing above all else. I turned down invitations, ignored messages, and let friendship slip away, all because I believed that was what it meant to be a devoted husband. But when everything started to fall apart, I found myself alone, wondering where she was, what she was doing, and who she was with. It was exhausting. So one day, I made a choice. I stopped waiting. I started saying yes again, to friends I hadn't seen in months, even years. Friday nights were no longer spent staring at my phone, waiting for a text that wouldn't come. Instead, I was out, laughing, reconnecting, and remembering who I was before my world revolved around her. And while I was rediscovering my own life, Genevieve had her support system, her friends who reassured her, validated her choices, and told her she deserved happiness. They were the ones who encouraged her to take space, to explore, to figure things out. But those same women, the ones who cheered her on, were also the first to notice a change in me. At first it was subtle, a quick glance, a lingering smile, a casual, "Wow, Donald, you're looking good these days." Then it escalated. Compliments turned into curiosity. Conversations stretched longer. They laughed a little harder at my jokes, leaned in just a little closer. And Genevieve saw it all. She saw the way her friends looked at me, the way they responded to me differently. At first, she embraced her so-called freedom, convincing herself that she had made the right choice, that she was simply doing what she needed to do. But the more she saw me thriving, the more unease crept in. She had expected to find me broken, lost, and desperate for her return. Instead, I had flipped the script. I wasn't sulking. I wasn't chasing. I had moved on with my life, and that reality unsettled her. The first signs of her jealousy were small, fleeting expressions she tried to hide but couldn't. I noticed the way her jaw tensed when her friends playfully touched my arm, or how she stiffened when they showered me with compliments. Even her best friend, the one who had been her biggest cheerleader, started acting differently, being extra nice to me, seeking out my attention. And Genevieve, she noticed it all, and it started to eat away at her. Then, one evening, she broke the silence. As I sat in the living room, unwinding after a long day, she casually walked in and asked, "How was your day?" Just like that. Simple, as if nothing had happened, as if she hadn't pushed me away, as if she hadn't made me feel like an afterthought. But I didn't give her what she was looking for. It was good. I replied, my tone neutral, indifferent. No details, no enthusiasm. I wasn't rude, but I made sure she felt the shift. I was polite but distant. She wasn't my priority anymore, and she felt it. She expected me to light up, to eagerly engage in conversation. But that's not how the game worked anymore. That moment, that realization, was the first crack in her confidence. A few days later, she tried again, but this time with effort. She struck up real conversations, asked about my plans, commented on my appearance, dropping hints that she was noticing the changes in me. Then came the suggestion. We should go out sometime. Just us. Dinner, maybe. I knew exactly what she was doing. She wanted to slide back into my life seamlessly, expected me to welcome her with open arms. But I wasn't about to make it that easy. Maybe, I said coolly, let me check my schedule. That answer killed her. She had anticipated immediate excitement, relief, a quick yes. Instead, she was met with uncertainty, the same uncertainty she had forced me to sit with when she asked for space. Then came the subtle attempts to win back my attention. She started dressing up more, wearing the outfits she knew I loved, fixing her hair, wearing perfume. These weren't just casual efforts. These were calculated. She was trying to pull me back in, but I didn't bite. I remained composed, detached, in control. And the more indifferent I was, the more desperate she became. And then one night, she finally cracked. She sat down in front of me, her expression different now, softer, uncertain. She looked me straight in the eye and admitted, I think I made a mistake. I don't need space. I need us. I leaned back, watching her, letting her words settle. This was the moment I had anticipated for months, but now that it was here, I felt nothing but clarity. I gave you space because you asked for it, I said calmly. But now, I'm not sure if I want to go back to how things were. Her face fell. That was the moment she realized, truly realized, that the power had shifted. She had expected me to be waiting, to be grateful for her return. But I wasn't. The regret in her eyes was unmistakable. I'm done, I told her. You wanted space, and I realized I deserved someone who never needed it in the first place. And just like that, it was over. She sat there, stunned, unable to process that the man she had been so sure would always be there had slipped through her fingers. The high school sweetheart she'd been reminiscing about, the one she had entertained in her period of self-discovery, he had never been serious about her. Just an old flame playing with emotions before returning to his life. The separation took months to finalize, but before it was all said and done, she confessed, I regret it. I regret all of it. But by then, I had already moved on. I was in a better place, with someone who actually valued what I had to offer. And Genevieve? She was left alone. So, tell me, was I wrong for handling it this way? Should I have taken her back after everything? Or was I right to move on? I know some will say, you should have fought for your marriage. But fought for what? For a woman who discarded me the moment she thought she had better options? For someone who only realized my worth when she saw other women appreciating me? That's not love. That's possession. She didn't want me. She just didn't want to lose me to someone else. And that's a big difference. Here's what I learned the hard way. When a woman says she needs space, she's already made up her mind. She just doesn't have the courage to tell you the full truth. She's not asking for space to think. She's asking for space to explore her options without guilt. And the moment you start begging, pleading, or trying to convince her otherwise, you only confirm what she already suspects, that you're desperate. And nothing kills attraction faster than desperation. So, fellas, if your woman ever tells you she needs space, don't chase. Don't cry. Don't flood her phone with messages about how much you love her. That's exactly what she expects. Instead, give her exactly what she's asking for, but on your terms. Pull back. Work on yourself. Hit the gym. Upgrade your wardrobe. Go out with friends. Make sure she sees you thriving without her. And here's the crazy part. Once she sees that other women are noticing you, that you're moving forward instead of waiting, she'll start questioning everything. She'll feel that jealousy creeping in, and suddenly she'll be the one chasing you. And when that happens, you decide if she's even worth taking back. At the end of the day, it's about self-respect. Don't let anyone treat you like a backup plan. Know your worth. And if someone needs to lose you to realize it, let them lose you for good.